Hello and welcome. President Muhammadu Buhari describes Nigeria as most prosperous black nation as he unveils 60th independence anniversary logo depicting the country's togetherness. APC, PDP supporters clash in Ondo State ahead of next month's governorship election. Federal government meets U.S. authorities over review of ban on some categories of migrant visas on Nigeria. And Hurricane Sally triggers historic and catastrophic flooding to southern U.S. after making landfall. Plus, we'll have business, sports, and later on news from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, Nigeria meets oil production cut compliance in August as OPEC holds virtual joint technical committee meeting.
On sports news tonight, French court sentences former World Athletics president Lamine Diack to 4 years in prison for corruption.
The federal government is preparing for the commemoration of the country's 60th independence anniversary on October the 1st. And one of the activities lined up for the event is the unveiling of the logo by the president at the State House in Abuja today. According to President Muhammadu Buhari, 60 years of Nigeria's independence calls for great celebration, but those celebrations are to be low-key as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The logo, according to the president, was chosen by Nigerians after an internet challenge depicting the country's togetherness and the most essential asset, which is the Nigerian people.
As we formally begin a series of activities commemorating Nigeria's diamond anniversary, the task history has saddled me with today is to proclaim a theme that will keep us united, help us forge ahead, and unveil a logo that will form the critical pillars which our 11-month modest commemoration activities would rest on. Celebrating 60 years of independence really calls for pomp and pageantry. But the global COVID-19 pandemic, which has forced all nations in the world to think and act differently, has also forced on us the imperative of a low-keyed celebration. Operating within the limitations placed by the COVID-19 pandemic, we created an internet challenge for Nigerians to make a choice from a set of 4 pre-selected logos that would appropriately define the theme. Of these 4, Nigerians from all walks of life participated in making a choice, and I am happy to let you know that the logo I would be unveiling is a product of choice from the Nigerian people. I am informed that the selected option depicts our togetherness, a country of over 200 million people whose natural talent, grit, and passion glitter like the precious diamond we are. This, to me, is a special appreciation to our most precious asset, our people. Everywhere you go, Nigerians are sparkling like diamonds in the pack, whether in academia, business, innovation, music, movie, entertainment, fashion, and culture.
Meanwhile, Nigeria will now have a new anti-corruption agency to be saddled with the responsibility of properly coordinating all recovered looted assets by the federal government. This, among others, formed the crux of discussions at the Federal Executive Council meeting in the nation's capital, Abuja. The Minister of Justice explains that assets recovered have been in the hands of several agencies and better coordination will be required. Our State House correspondent, Kayla Megwa, reports.
The weekly Federal Executive Council meeting holds at the Council Chambers of State House in Abuja, chaired by President Muhammadu Buhari. As of today, there is no single avenue where you can find out just how many stolen assets have been recovered. This is because these assets are recovered and placed in the custody of several agencies. To fix this, Mr. Malami got approval from Council to create a new agency in charge of proper coordination of these assets.
The issue of recovery of looted assets is an issue that has international dimension and colorations. For example, Financial Action Task Force is an agency that is responsible internationally, in respect of which over 100 countries are involved. And there is the sharing of intelligence. There is aspect of demand for international uniformity, both in terms of legal and institutional framework. And then if Nigeria now does not satisfy the legal and institutional requirement of it, it makes it very difficult for Nigeria to have the support, to have the understanding and working understanding and relationship with Financial Action Task Force.
Presenting Council with the second quarter GDP report, the Minister of Finance insists Nigeria did better than expected, despite its GDP shrinking by 6.1%.
Of the 46 sectors in the economy, 30 of these sectors showed negative growth, but there were still some sectors that were growing on the positive territory. And these sectors included agriculture, as well as financial services and the ICT services.
The Minister of Labour got Council's approval to replace Nigeria's 14-year-old health and safety in the workplace policy with a new one, and is optimistic about talks with organized labour.
We now agreed that all sides should go back to their principal. So the NLC is doing their Central Working Committee today to present this, and if there are other things, we'll follow it from there. Somebody said that the money that have resulted because of PMS increase, transportation has gone up, workers are paying more for transport and the rest of them. Yes, we agree, and when they come back to us, we will know what to do.
Before the new anti-corruption agency called the Proceeds of Crime Recovery and Management Agency is created, the bill will have to go through the National Assembly. The new agency has its work cut out for it and must ensure it does not duplicate the duties of other anti-corruption agencies in the country. From the State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Moving on to other stories, the Labour movement is not giving up on its demands for a reversal of the new pump price of petrol and electricity tariff, as it's given the federal government till September the 28th to reverse the recent increases or face a nationwide industrial action. The president of the NLC, Mr. Ayuba Waba, stated this at a news conference in Abuja after a meeting of the NLC's Central Working Committee and the National Administrative Council to review the outcome of yesterday's meeting between the federal government and the Labour leaders. According to Mr. Waba, the 2-week ultimatum, which begins today, will end on September the 28th, and if the government refuses to address the issues, then organised labour will go on strike and mobilise its civil society allies for a nationwide peaceful protest.
The Central Working Committee and the NAC also took report of the meeting that took place between federal government and organized labor, where NLC was represented by 14 of its leaders, and therefore resolve as follows. The Central Working Committee resolves to issue a 2-week ultimatum to the federal government to reverse or face industrial action and peaceful assembly. In furtherance to this, Central Working Committee resolved also to convey the meeting of the National Executive Council in line with our Constitution on the 22nd of September 2020, Tuesday, to also give effect to this decision. Because the proposal also for the action is to commence on Monday, September 28, 2020, if those issues are not addressed. NLC Central Working Committee also will mobilize its members, our civil society allies, and other social partners to try to resist this policy because it has driven many into poverty.
The National Industrial Court in Abuja today ordered members of the National Association of Resident Doctors to immediately end their industrial action, which started on September the 7th, 2020. Justice Galadima issued the order in a ruling on an ex parte application filed by two civil society groups, the Citizens Advocacy for Social and Economic Rights and the Association of Women in Trade and Agriculture. Moving the ex parte application, the plaintiff's lawyer, Mr. Frank Tiete, prayed the court to direct the resident doctors as providers of essential services key to the fundamental right of life of members of the groups and all Nigerians to immediately cease the strike and resume duties. Justice Galadima then ordered the resident doctors to immediately resume their duties pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice already fixed for October the 8th. To politics now, where the police and other sister security agencies have given residents the assurance of adequate security before, during and after the governorship election. The Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of research, planning and election security arrangements in Edo State gave the assurance today as the INEC officials inspected sensitive materials for the polls.
It's only a few days to the Edo governorship election, and the focus for the police remains a free, fair, safe and credible exercise. A strong point the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of election security arrangements in the state emphasizes here at the State Police Command Headquarters in Benin City, the state capital, in addition to the warning against unacceptable conduct.
We want to sound a note of warning to would-be miscreants and other political thugs who might be holding clandestine or nocturnal meetings to foment trouble with the motive to disrupt the election and scuttle the democratic process, to desist from such acts in their own interest. As the arm of the law, we certainly catch up with them.
In a separate location, the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN premises, also in Benin City, more preparations toward the election are being made. Officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, political party agents and election observers are here to inspect sensitive materials said to have arrived to the state. The group carry out the exercise within the building and thereafter make their observations known to the journalists who had not been cleared for entry into the CBN premises.
We have just been invited to look at the materials for the elections for Saturday, and that has been inspected and we are satisfied with what we have seen. The actual time for distribution of materials is going to be tomorrow, and we have been so invited to come in by 7 o'clock.
Tomorrow we'll have a more detailed observation of the material. Today is to confirm that the materials have arrived, and yes, we have seen that as observers. We are happy with what we have seen and happy with the progress and the preparation so far for the elections.
The Commission explains the next steps it's taken on the materials.
We just went and inspected the materials in cartons, the sensitive materials, the ballot papers and the result sheets. And just now, the Braille ballot box, that is the ones for people living with disability, especially the visually impaired, their own ballot papers also came in just now. So we are set for the elections tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, as early as 7:30, all of you will be here, and then we'll start the distribution to the various local governments.
For INEC, the inclusion of the Braille ballot guide is meant to ensure that the election on Saturday is an inclusive exercise. Jessica Olubuse, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, federal government meets U.S. authorities for review of ban on some categories of migrant visas on Nigeria. That's in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari describes Nigeria as most prosperous black nation as he unveils 60th independence anniversary logo depicting the country's togetherness. APC, PDP supporters clash in Ondo State ahead of next month's governorship election. Federal government meets U.S. authorities for review of ban on some categories of migrant visas on Nigeria. And Hurricane Sally triggers historic and catastrophic flooding to southern U.S. after making landfall. Let's continue with stories on the build-up to the governorship election in Edo State. And the former national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Adams Oshomole, has also joined the call for a peaceful conduct of the poll as he asks residents of the state to stick to the slogan of one man, one vote and a non-violent election. He also appealed to the people of the state to vote for the candidate of his party, Pastor Osage Izeyamu, who, according to him, has what it takes to restore progress and development in Edo State.
Governments will come and go. Governors will come and go. The people of Edo State will remain. And therefore, it does not matter what happens, we need to ensure that we conduct ourselves peacefully. I urge you to please do all of us proud as perhaps the only state in the South-South geopolitical zone in which we have established a tradition of one man, one vote without violence. We want to celebrate the power of the people. We don't want to celebrate the barrel of the gun. We want to celebrate the ballot paper. We don't want to celebrate bullets. We want to celebrate people clapping and dancing because they have voted according to their will. We don't want people to be mourning because they've lost a loved one. That is not part of our tradition. That is not in our culture. As Oba has said, no matter what you think, the office will come and go. I was a governor for 8 years, and I had an incredible record of voter support. Today, I am no more a governor. So it shall be with even the one that will be elected on Saturday, which I pray will be a candidate of my own political party.
Meanwhile, the Igbo Community Union says it's endorsing the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, who is now a patron of the body, as their candidate in the September the 19th governorship election in Edo State. The vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Peter Obi, and the former chairman of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, Samuel Ohuabunwa, led other Igbo leaders who gave the endorsement at a meeting in Benin City, the Edo State capital.
A chorus of solidarity songs for Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki, who is a special guest at this event hosted by the Igbo Community Union in Edo State. The governor's entourage includes his wife, Betsy, and political associates. The Edo governorship election, which is just days away, tops the agenda, and the speakers here have only one candidate for the Igbos in Saturday's governorship poll.
Go out and get all the Igbo people, Edo people, everybody, vote for him, support him, tell anybody that I said so. They think we're idiots. You say one thing today, tomorrow you come and say another. You want us to follow you. Are we idiots? No! So, sir, we want to assure you that the Igbo community here that I have traveled all the way to Lagos to come and support is behind you. Because you are justly the man for the moment. 16th of September.
Governor Obaseki's affirmation is further confirmed as he's made a patron of the group.
To continue this good work in 2021, 2022, 2023. Thank you very much.
PDP governorship candidate promises to do even more if he gets another chance to lead Edo State.
As second-term governor, I will not change. Because people are saying, oh, now when they get their second term, they won't care again. No. In fact, if anything, I need this second term to consolidate. So what we have done is a very, very fundamental change. If we don't consolidate it, they may come back. So by the grace of God, the next 4 years is to deepen what we have done.
Mr. Godwin Obaseki has assured the Igbo community of continuity in his programs for the state, and that a second term will give him the opportunity to complete the economic developments in progress.
Now, supporters of the People's Democratic Party and those of the All Progressives Congress have clashed in Ondo State less than 23 days to the state governorship election. Political thugs reportedly attacked the convoy of the People's Democratic Party governorship candidate Eitayo Jegede in Oba Akoko, in Akoko's southwest local government area of the state. According to Mr. Jegede, his team was at the palace of the traditional ruler of the town when thugs of the APC allegedly opened fire on their vehicles parked by the roadside. He says about 15 vehicles in his convoy were destroyed, but no life was lost.
No other political party is expected to be in Obakoko or Akoko Southwest at the same time that we were scheduled to be there. We arrived at the palace of Oloba of Obakoko about 11 or 12, about 12 in the noon. Suddenly we had gunshots outside because the palace of the Oloba is quite close to the main road. And there were gunshots fired at all of us who were within the precincts of Oloba's palace by a horde of thugs, all in APC campaign vehicles, with the governor of the state leading the entourage, opening the doors of his vehicle. And in the process, our people were shot at. In the process, guns were fired, bullets were fired at the fuel tank of vehicles that were on our convoy, because we were right there inside the palace. In the process, 15 vehicles were destroyed, the windshields were broken, bullets were fired into the vehicles, and we thank God there's no loss of life, even though a good number of our people sustained injuries.
It appears the United States government is re-evaluating its ban on some categories of migrant visas on Nigeria. Ambassador Mustafa Sulaiman, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, gave the hint at the end of the inaugural meeting of the U.S.-Nigeria Forum in Abuja. According to Ambassador Sulaiman, the forum would serve as a platform where both countries can progressively improve on bilateral relations and address concerns for the benefit of citizens. The U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Marybeth Leonard, on her part, commends Nigeria on the progress made on information sharing and other concerns raised by the U.S. government, which led to the ban. She also explained the recent visa ban of some politicians who were allegedly involved in election malpractices.
I'm sure if you follow, the information that has been passed in terms of the level of compliance with, for instance, the sharing of information, we have done so much in that regard, and that's why I believe that the U.S. government is having the comfort to even re-evaluate. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been, candidates for evaluation if we haven't really substantially complied with the requirements that have been established, at the beginning of the immigrant visa ban. So I think if we are to rate ourselves, I think from what has been said and done so far, we should be about 90% compliant. And like I said, that's why we are looking at a re-evaluation, and we are looking at actually a positive prospect, in terms of outcome.
U.S. visa processes are in fact confidential, and so we do not publish a list. We do not make public who it is has been subjected to these, would be subjected to these sanctions. An individual who attempted to travel or to apply for a visa would be refused, impeded, but it is not something that we advertise who those lists of individuals are. I think that anyone who is involved with electoral processes in Nigeria should reflect upon the fact that notorious behavior in this regard may have that consequence for their ability to travel to the United States.
The governor of Abia State, Okeze Ikpeazu, has directed the State Environmental Protection Agency, as well as the Aba South Local Government Area Town Planning Authority, to immediately ensure full and safe demolition of the partially collapsed three-story building along Azikiwe Road in Aba. The state government, in a statement, is sad about the collapse of the building, which is under construction, and immediately directed the relevant agencies to the location, in addition to mobilizing earth-moving equipment to the site on a search and rescue mission. He adds that so far, one fatality has been confirmed, and those on site are working to see if there are others still trapped in the rubble. Meanwhile, in Kano State, 3 persons have also lost their lives as 2 buildings collapsed in Dawakin Tofa local government area, and that was due to a heavy downpour in the area. The father of one of those who lost their lives in the incident, Mallam Buba Anwar, says the sad event happened around 3 a.m. today. In a related development, 2 boys also lost their lives when another building collapsed in Dala local government area of the state. The spokesperson of the State Fire Service, Sadio Mohammed, who confirmed the incident, explains that 10 victims of the affected building were rushed to hospital, where a 4-year-old boy and his 6-year-old brother were confirmed dead. When the News at 10 returns, Nigeria meets oil production cuts compliance in August as OPEC holds virtual joint technical committee meeting. That's on business. Please stay with us. Welcome back. 2 persons have been confirmed dead after torrential rainfall caused the collapse of a mud house in Kachi village of Dutse, the Jigawa state capital. The executive secretary of the State Emergency Management Agency, Mr. Yusuf Sani, who confirmed this to Channels Television, says it brings to 29 the total number of people who have died as a result of heavy rains and floods in the state.
This year also we experience incessant rain that destroys so many mud houses and leave a lot of people dead. From the last count, I think 1 week ago, we have registered about 51,000 houses. But I think now it has gone almost double. And this experience is really a very terrible one that we did not prepare for. The normal flooding that occurs mostly is around the river bank, where rivers overflow and take over farmland and some towns. But towns now that are even on the higher level have experienced a lot of damaged houses. And it wasn't expected. But I think SEMA is doing its best to reach out to the people and see how we can support them.
To security matters now, and as part of efforts to rid the country of criminals, troops of Operation Hadarindaji say they have killed several bandits in Zamfara State. The coordinator of Defense Media Operations, Major General John Enenche, says the Nigerian Air Force jets and helicopter gunships were deployed for the airstrikes, which were conducted in a forest area of Zamfara State, northwestern part of the country. Major General Enechia went on to say that the operation was predicated on human intelligence reports and reconnaissance missions, which established that the cluster of huts and other structures at the end of the forest served as a hideout for bandits. Meanwhile, a former governorship candidate of the All Progressives Grand Alliance in Zamfara State, Mr. Abdullahi Shinkafi, is raising an alarm over alleged plans by some politicians to disrupt the peace in the state. Mr. Shinkafi says the plan is a disaster waiting to happen in the state, where cases of armed banditry, kidnapping and cattle rustling have been on the rise.
In the last few weeks, there's intelligence report available to us that there's uncovered fraud by some factional members of All Progressive Congress, APC in Zamfara State, to truncate the existing peace we are enjoying in Zamfara State. This evil plan is to destroy the peace restored by the administration of Governor Matole that initiated peace and alternative dispute resolution with deadly armed bandits and cattle rustlers in the state for the past 1 year.
The Minister of Transportation, Chibuike Amechi, has been inspecting the 156-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge rail project. The train conveying the minister and top management staff of the Nigerian Railway Corporation departed from the Ido station in Lagos before midday. It stopped at various stations along the project line to get updates from the contractors on the quality and progress report of the construction work. The rail tracks for the project have been completed, but the stations are still under construction. One of the major projects embarked on by the federal government, the Lagos-Ibadan Railway, is being handled by the China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation. Let's take a look at some business news now, and here's Anne Waudu.
Thank you, Ijoma. Hello and welcome to Business News. Nigeria has met its crude production cut compliance agreed by members of the Organization of Oil-Producing Countries and its allies known as OPEC Plus by a whopping 109% for the month of August. And this was made known today at the Joint Technical Committee of OPEC, which met to discuss market fundamentals and compliance by members amid signs of a faltering demand recovery. Figures released by OPEC shows that Nigeria was expected to cut 334,000 barrels of oil, but succeeded in cutting its output by 32 million barrels per day to 366,000 barrels last month, with compliance among OPEC Plus members seen at around 101%. Meanwhile, the higher-level Ministerial Monitoring Committee of OPEC will meet on Thursday, but it's unlikely to announce recommendations for expanding the oil cuts, which is currently at 7.7 million barrels per day. The COVID-19 pandemic is threatening to roll back gains achieved in health and education over the past decade, especially in low-income countries, and that's according to the World Bank. In its Human Capital Index report for the year 2020, the president of the International Financial Institution, David Malpass, explains that investing in people, especially in the health and education sector, is vital to lay the foundation for sustainable, inclusive recoveries and the future growth of the nation. He also says the World Bank is working closely with governments to develop long-term solutions to protect and invest in people during and after the pandemic. The Human Capital Index, which was first launched in 2018 as an international metric, which of course serves as a benchmark for investments in human capital across countries. An additional 1.16 billion naira, that's the amount lost today to more profit-taking by investors at the close of business. Let's hear more from Chimezie Obiwagu.
Thanks, Anne, and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Red, that is the color again for today, representing the bear. But that didn't come as a surprise anyway. Yesterday was the qualification day for some bank stocks, GT Bank, Stanbic IBTC and UBA. And today those stocks were marked down. But contrary to expectation, UBA and GT Bank gained while Stanbic IBTC remained constant. Don't also forget that I did mention that today is the qualification day for Zenith Bank and tomorrow is for Access Bank. And as expected, investors took quick profit on those stocks, selling come dividend. So it's because of the sell pressure on those two stocks, Zenith and Access Bank, that we have seen this red arrow on the all-share index. When you look at the sectoral chart, you will see a reflection of what I have just said. The banking sector took the major hit. Analysts had expected to see some bargain hunting, but that didn't happen. See the activity chart. Transaction volume and value dropped compared to what was recorded in the past 2 days. Just a little over 211 million shares were traded, worth about 2.4 billion naira in 3,651 deals. And these activities were mainly on the banking stocks, as we can see on the top trade chart. The market is looking for a catalyst that will push the index to the positive side. However, traders are saying that what we are likely to see going forward will be an up and down movement on the index. We can only wait and see what tomorrow holds. And that was the stock market report. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago.
With those numbers, we'll end business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Joma.
Thanks a lot, Anne. The presidency has been reacting to recent comments on a purported division in the country, particularly those linked to former President Olusegun Obasanjo and Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka. The president's special advisor on media and publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina, insists that right from amalgamation, Nigeria has been a divided country and that the division in the country predates the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. He describes Nigeria as an inconvenient amalgamation, which has always been divided, and that the current government has been making efforts to reunite the country.
Woe betide the country that does not have critics, because they could be doing everything wrongly, and there will be nobody to point out that, hey, you are going in the wrong direction. So critics have their uses. Criticism has its positive sides, but then it's not every criticism that you should give you sleepless nights. When such criticism comes, you need to look at it. Isolate what you think is germane, isolate what you think is actionable, and the one that you think is in the realm of politics and is in the realm of preconceived notions. Of course, you have to discard. But there are some criticisms that you don't discard everything. You find what you think you can follow up on, what you think you can adjust, and you adjust.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Hurricane Sally triggers historic and catastrophic flooding to southern U.S. after making landfall. Plus more stories from our London studio in Around the World in 5. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. Hurricane Sally is said to have brought with it historic and catastrophic flooding to southern U.S. after making landfall. The National Hurricane Center reported flooding from Florida to Mobile Bay in Alabama. It has also warned of a life-threatening storm surge and river flooding inland as far as Georgia. Sally is one of several storms in the Atlantic Ocean, with officials running out of letters to name the hurricanes as they near the end of their annual alphabetic list. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has announced plans to help the bloc's economies recover from the pandemic.
and distorts fair competition in the single market, and this has to stop.
Addressing the European Parliament, Ms von der Leyen warned that vaccine nationalism threatened lives and urged member states to cooperate and build a strong health union. Addressing the European Parliament, Mrs von der Leyen said, "This is the moment for Europe to trust each other and stand together."
Why are even simple statements on EU values delayed, watered down, or held hostage for other motives? When member states say Europe is too slow, I say be courageous and finally move to qualified majority voting, at least on human rights and sanctions implementation.
Barbados has announced its intention to remove Queen Elizabeth as its head of state and become a republic. In a statement, the Barbadian government said the time has come to fully leave our colonial past behind. A speech written by Prime Minister Mia Mottley said Barbadians wanted a Barbadian head of state, and Buckingham Palace said it was a matter for the government and the people of Barbados. The Caribbean country aims to complete the process in time for the 55th anniversary of independence from Britain in November 2021. Hurricane Sally has brought historic and catastrophic flooding to the southern US as it hits land.
Barely even see the cars. My car is somewhere.
Eyewitness footage showed heavy rain and strong winds lashing the town of Gulf Shores, Alabama. The National Hurricane Center warned of a life-threatening storm surge and river flooding inland as far as Georgia. Hurricane Sally is one of several storms in the Atlantic Ocean, with officials running out of letters to name the hurricanes. Authorities warn that the storm is moving extremely slowly, which means the rains could linger and cause further damage. There's been more violence between Palestinian militants in Gaza and Israel after a ceremony in Washington where Israel and two Gulf Arab states normalized their relations. Rockets lit up the night sky in Gaza overnight as militants fired 2 rockets into Israel. One hit the coastal city of Ashdod, wounding 2 men. Another barrage of 13 rockets was launched before dawn on Wednesday. In retaliation, the Israeli military bombed sites in Gaza it said belonged to the Palestinian group Hamas. Japan's parliament has elected Yoshihide Suga as the country's new prime minister following the surprise resignation of Shinzo Abe. The lower house stood and applauded as he was officially announced as leader, while Suga bowed to show his gratitude. After winning the leadership of the governing party earlier this week, the vote confirmed the former chief cabinet secretary's new position. He becomes the country's first new leader in nearly 8 years and has described a continuity cabinet where he's expected to keep about half of predecessor Shinzo Abe's lineup. In South Africa, funeral workers have picketed outside a Johannesburg hospital, angry at changes within their industry during the coronavirus pandemic. 3 days of action have been prompted by changes to a host of regulations and procedures, some coming in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, that black funeral workers say favour the industry's big players. For this reason, they're asking for a COVID relief fund. South Africa's health ministry has warned that the strike poses a public health risk to the country. And finally, the British auction house Christie's plans to sell the skeleton of one of the largest known Tyrannosaurus rexes in early October. The approximately 67-million-year-old dinosaur, known as Stan, was originally discovered in 1987 in South Dakota. Christie's will display the dinosaur from Wednesday to mid-October in New York. The auction house also plans to book socially distant viewings of the dinosaur, estimating the value of Stan between $6 and $8 million. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Let's take a company report now. Total E&P Nigeria Limited has signed a 5-year sponsorship partnership for the National Men's Basketball Division 1 and 2 leagues in Lagos. At the signing ceremony in Lagos, the managing director of Total E&P, Mike Sangster, says the MOU, which essentially is a renewal of the partnership, became necessary following the success recorded in the previous deal, as seen in the growth and laurels worn by Nigeria's basketball teams.
We rise, please.
It's about to get down big for the sporting community in Nigeria, the ministry, and for grassroots development like never seen in a while.
It's a gentleman we all know, a veteran journalist.
Everyone and anyone associated with basketball in Nigeria, its administration, reportage, business, and perhaps the most critical, its sponsorship, are here to witness a big support from Total EMP Nigeria Limited.
In the last 1 year, we have tried to bring about a reorientation of our sporting commitments.
The Nigerian Basketball Divisions 1 and 2 leagues, essentially a platform that captures raw talent and grassroots development, is receiving a boost of 150 million naira by Total for a 5-year deal.
The leagues have been expanded under a new format to enable over 150 teams to participate. And the River Hoopers were excellent in 2019, winning the President's Cup and representing Nigeria in the FIBA Afro League, while of course the Tigers and the Tigress both qualified for the Olympics.
An elated moment it is for the sports minister, and he tells it all.
In the last 1 year, we have tried to bring about a reorientation of our sporting commitments. Even though football is king, we have said we will focus on other sports. Basketball is top on the list. So I want to thank you up front for helping to deepen the culture of sports development in Nigeria.
Of course, you must have strong governance structure to attract first a 2-year deal by Total and topped with an additional 5-year deal.
It is the first time a lower rung sports is receiving corporate sponsorship at this level. This partnership increases the entertainment value of the game as participating teams compete for laurels right from their home turf all the way to the national finals.
When the history of the NBBF is written, when the history of corporate sports sponsorship in Nigeria is written, Total Nigeria says its contribution will no doubt be written in gold.
Welcome to more sports news now. The former head of World Athletics, Lamine Diack, has been found guilty by a French court of corruption in covering up Russian doping cases and sentenced to 4 years in prison, of which 2 years were suspended. The 87-year-old Senegalese who led World Athletics from 1999 to 2015 was also fined $600,000. The National Basketball Association, NBA, has confirmed that it will push back the 2020 draft to November the 18th, allowing an extra month to confirm details of next season's start date. The 2019-2020 playoffs are still underway in the league's quarantine bubble in Orlando, Florida. To tennis, where Novak Djokovic has turned the page on his contentious U.S. Open exit and begun his clay court season with a convincing 6-3, 6-2 victory over wildcard Salvatore Caruso in the second round of the Italian Open. The world number one was disqualified in New York after accidentally hitting a line judge with a ball during his fourth-round match against Spain's Pablo Carreño Busta. In football, FIFA have announced that the COVID-19 pandemic is likely to cost club football $14 billion this year worldwide. Olli Rehn, who heads the FIFA committee set up to tackle the effects of the pandemic, said that the global football governing body, along with financial consultants, had estimated the club came to be worth between $40 billion and $45 billion worldwide. That's it on Sports News. Ijama, back to you.
Thanks, Olumide. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today described Nigeria as the most prosperous black nation as he unveiled the country's 60th independence anniversary logo, which he said depicts the country's togetherness as a nation. Also today, supporters of the All Progressives Congress and those of the People's Democratic Party clashed in Ondo State ahead of next month's governorship election. Both of them have been trading blame on the incident. And Hurricane Sally today triggered historic and catastrophic flooding in the southern part of the United States after making landfall. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks a lot for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. You stay safe and have a good night.